Hi everyone, welcome to the Linux Action Show's review of Ubuntu 11.04. This review was done live at LinuxFest Northwest 2011, and therein lies the rub, actually. Because it was live, we had some new hardware, and there's some audio glitches. Hopefully it won't be too bad though, and you can enjoy the review, and we had a live audience there that was able to ask questions and give us their immediate opinions on things like Unity and the other new changes in Ubuntu. So it was sort of a new way to do a review, so it was exciting. So hopefully you'll bear with the audio issues and still enjoy the review of Ubuntu 11.04.
And welcome to a very special episode of the Linux Action Show. That's not really an episode of the Linux Action Show. We are just going to review Ubuntu 11.04 today, and that's it.
Yeah, we figured that'd be a lot less work.
That's a lot less work.
Because the whole show is a lot more work.
A lot more work.
We're on location at LinuxFest Northwest 2011 in
Say hello, everybody.
Washington.
All right, that is LinuxFest Northwest. They're awesome here.
There you go. So we're here doing a session, and we thought we'd do a live review of Ubuntu 11.04.
We're just going to do it live, and as you notice, behind us, there's no green screen because it's white.
We do have a whiteboard, though.
We do have a whiteboard.
So if we had to get desperate for a visual, we have a solution.
I haven't used a whiteboard in like 20 years.
I was going to, but my handwriting's awful.
It's pretty terrible.
Lack of using a whiteboard.
It betrays how retarded we are. All right, so let's just dive into it. Obviously, lots of contention over Ubuntu 11.04's release, almost entirely around Unity, the brand new user interface that's kind of like Gnome 3, but not in stupid. So I want to get a few other things out of the way first.
Okay.
Let's talk about not Unity first.
Not Unity.
So if you take Unity out of it, take the whole new UI out of it, this is a really good release. So
it's pretty good. I still have some issues with you take Unity out, but like you're talking like you go the Gnome Classic route.
Well, not just the Gnome Classic route. Like if you just ignored the fact that Unity is there, like just pretend like it was awesome and Gnome 2, and you just had the same look.
It is a lot
10,
better.
10. They got the new Firefox, which is great. They replaced Rhythmbox with Banshee, which I've been bitching about for like 4 years now.
Ubuntu 1's got some new, better integration with like syncing some stuff. Not as much as I'd like to see yet.
That works pretty good. Yeah. I mean, and otherwise, it's a pretty solid release. I threw it on the little Lenovo Touch tablet here,
the S10 3T,
and it works perfectly out of the box. Which Ubuntu 10.10 currently the touchpad mouse doesn't work. There's some sound issues, and the Ethernet jack doesn't work right.
So it works better than it does under 10.10.
Way better than it does under 10.10, and everything worked out of the box without having to touch.
Well, that's cool.
Anything. I didn't have to click activate hardware, proprietary drivers or anything like that. Right. It just worked.
I'll be honest with you, man. I have not had that smooth of a. I have it here on my HP Envy, and Brian, I'd give you this power cord.
Because the HPs are made from plastic, dude.
But if I said like, here, Brian, put this in your pocket, I wouldn't be able to do a show because in about 10 minutes my battery would be dead. I mean,
what does putting a power cord in my pocket have to do with Ubuntu?
My point is the power management on Ubuntu 11.04 seems to have taken a step backwards.
Oh, I gotcha.
The guys over at Phronix have done some sort of testing, and they've done some checks, and they think they've actually traced it back to just a regression in the general Linux kernel that just happens to apply to the one that Ubuntu is using. But that said, I definitely have noticed some thermal issues and some power issues that I didn't have on older versions in or outside of Unity.
It's funny you mention that because the battery life on this seems to be great under 11.04, but when I unplug it, it normally pops up and says that, it actually did it kind of right this time. It normally pops up and says that you've got like 27,000 hours of battery power remaining.
It said you had 7,000% left.
7,000%. Yeah, it actually went over 100%, which I have no idea how that's even physically possible. So obviously that's a little bit dorked up, but like the fans don't spin up all that much. It actually seems to be doing everything.
And I will say this, in the last few days, there's some ATI driver updates that made it in, and there's some other updates that have really improved some of my stability with graphics. I have a
so they were just a few days late.
I have a second monitor. Yeah, basically by Thursday when it actually shipped, I think they had all the fixes in. But I had an HDMI feed powering a second monitor. Tons of problems until just recently.
I mean, who installs Ubuntu with the day it comes out anyway? It's just begging for trouble.
Well, a lot of people.
A lot of people do?
Yeah.
All right. So all that out of the way, because honestly, none of that really matters because most of these packages are the same packages that every other.
I think everybody's here to talk about Unity.
LibreOffice, it's all the same. The one other thing I wanted to mention before we move on to Unity is the Ubuntu Software Center. Got some new fancy features. You can star applications.
Here's my take. The Software Center is good for discoverability in the sense that earlier today I did a Linux podcasting session. And I thought, well, let's find out what I can get if I'm just sitting down on a Linux box for the first time for podcasting. And I searched in the Ubuntu Software Center and I found a bunch of good things. The problem is I also found a bunch of really bad things that there was no way to really differentiate as a user. If I hadn't heard of these things by name before, I wouldn't know. And most of the things don't have reviews. It's just that the big name stuff that does have reviews. So that's not a great indicator either.
And I don't know, there's really hasn't been much review going on of the commercial software that's available in there, which I have kind of a vested interest in since I released commercial software in the Software Center. I'm one of like 11 people that do.
And it gets mixed up. Like I searched, I don't know exactly how it works. Like I was searching for Python stuff and Illumination Software Creator came up and I searched for...
Wait, it actually came up in a search?
It came up for all kinds of different stuff.
The software I make never comes up in searches for me. I look for it and look for it.
Like a dozen searches and I'm like...
That's fantastic. I'm going to be a millionaire now.
Yeah, right. But the one thing I do like about the Ubuntu Software Center is that if you just find something in the list, you click it and you just keep browsing. Have you guys tried that, where you can just go about your business, and in the background, Ubuntu Software Center just installs sort of in the background along the side? I love that.
Yeah, that's nice.
I love being able to just keep browsing while software installs.
That's nice. All right, so all that out of the way, let's talk about Unity.
All right.
So first, why don't you start and tell me how much you hate Unity?
Well, Brian, it goes a little something like this. I started using Unity weeks ago, alpha days, right?
Well,
alpha
you
days.
used it in early, This we used it like
ago,
December earlier.
And then we said, let's try Gnome 3 and do a review for the Linux Action Show. You can check a few episodes ago for that. The reason kind of why we went that route is I had to take a break. I literally had to release the pressure from this. I had to go there, release some of the pressure, and then try Unity again. I had to step away. And I will tell you that there's been several occasions where I would have completely wiped it off my machine and never gone back if it wasn't for the fact that I had to keep it to do this review.
That's harsh.
That said... Over the last week or so, I'm starting to get it a little better. I'm starting to grok it a bit more. I also found a bunch of great tutorials online for all the different keyboard combos, and now I'm keyboarding Unity up like a mofo, and that's getting a little better.
Yeah, this little shortcut thing you got over here, we need to post in the show notes because that helps immensely. Because the big problem I found when I first loaded up Unity,
it's really nice. It's a background too, so you can set it as your Unity desktop background. It's just basically all.
I did that at home. Yeah, I had to.
The mouse and keyboard tricks right there. So then it's just like an always-on reference.
Because honestly, you first presented with Unity, and you wonder what the hell you're supposed to do. I mean, sure, it's just a dock along the side, along the left side, which you can't move.
Right.
At all.
You can't change its
location. Can't go the bottom or the top or the right side.
Right.
So that's cool. It's just, but it's on the left side. I mean, that helps, I guess, a lot when you're trying to tell someone, click on the dock on your left side, because it's always on the left side.
It's always on the left side,
So that's fantastic. But one of the things I found is it automatically, by default, has all the LibreOffice icons in it.
Right.
I only use word processing and presentations.
Right.
I don't use spreadsheets.
Yeah,
so I go.
My doc's in the same stitch. I've taken out the calc and I've taken out the other stuff.
Did you have this? You go click on it and you drag it out,
and then you can't,
and it just moves.
The reason is
the icons stay in the dock, and you can't get rid of the icons no matter what you do. You have to right click on it
because it looks so much like the Mac in a way.
It kind of does,
but then it doesn't work like the Mac. So then you think it's going to work like the Windows 7 Superbar,
but it doesn't.
But it doesn't.
Yeah, and that's cool. I don't mind it working differently. It's just that it makes no sense. And so, you start playing around with it. Okay, you figure everything out. And there is no remove icon from the dock. Just a checkbox that says keep in launcher.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so I unclick that. Oh, now it's gone. Now, how do I get that back? How do I want to relaunch this, let's say, LibreOffice calculator? So, okay, there's a big, giant Ubuntu. And when I say big, giant, I mean super tiny, hard to click Ubuntu button in the upper left-hand corner. And I click on it, and oh my gosh, I can't tell what the hell's going on.
No, and the thing about it is
and it should be easy. So there's only a few things to click here, and I'm already confused.
You guys have all seen it. When you go up in that Ubuntu menu, you get this huge searchable screen that lets you sort of I don't know what you call this. I mean, here's the problem: is it immediately sort of just locks you into just a couple of apps, a couple of icons.
Right.
And so this goes back to what I was saying about the Ubuntu Software Center. It's like this dichotomy because I can find all of this great software in the Ubuntu Software Center. I can find it easier than I ever have. I can install it and go. It's way less effort now to install software, except for the fact that now I can't find any of it.
Right.
The only way I can find it is if I go to more apps.
And this is the part I love. If you click on the more apps thing, not that many more apps come up.
Hardly any more apps.
You can only see a couple of them, and 1/3 of them are apps you don't have installed right now.
Right.
So you go
The bottom
to launch
row is
your
the stuff not even installed.
and it just shows you seemingly random apps. Literally, well, I don't know what you're seeing right now.
They seem random.
It's recommending I install Pingus and Sopwith, which are two little tiny games that I don't like.
Right now, it's recommending LK, LSK Stat, and K Backup, which, of course, if I loaded K Backup, would then pull down all of the Qt deps, too, which would be awful. But so you get this screen, and then if you really want to see everything you've just installed, you have to click on this tiny C97 more results link, or whatever it might be on your system.
Yeah.
And then you just get this huge, massive flat list.
And you end up, in the end, having to type to search for what you wanted to find
But the problem is the search isn't fast enough for me to use it as my primary launching method.
No,
it's not like Gnome do fast.
Yeah, it's not like Gnome do where you hit a key and you just start typing and boom, it's right there and you can launch. So I'm left
It's not
wondering,
that it's slow, it's just not fast enough.
it's not fast enough. So I don't know exactly how you are expected as a pro user to use this. I mean, I'm used to, going up to the menu, boom, category of application, boom, launch the stupid application.
What I did?
No, I can't really do that.
Is I installed AWN dock, the AWN dock, and then I
Are you running it side by side?
No, I put it down the bottom. I don't have it on now, but I had it down the bottom, and then the AWN dock has a plugin for the Ubuntu menu, and then you just get your traditional Ubuntu menu. It's obnoxious.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
AWN dock.
It's the Avant Window Navigator.
Avant Window Navigator.
It's a great little dock.
I really don't like what they did.
You don't like the Unity? Yeah. Yeah.
Because I have so many applications.
Yeah, you can only put so many in there.
It's mildly disastrous.
I mean, you
isn't
can
it?
scroll the icons, and that's nice. But I completely agree.
So launching applications I find generally difficult. The applications they default into the dock are fine. I don't really care what's in there by default because I modify it myself. One of the other things I kind of was surprised by, if you're running Ubuntu 10.10, you're used to super key E, boom, virtual desktops. That doesn't work anymore. Now you're just left with a workspace switcher button that you have to click in order to bring it up. Now here's something that gets a little funky. Now I have a touch screen here, and if you look at the Unity interface, you immediately think touch screen.
Right?
You know what I mean?
thought.
I mean, like this would be great on a tablet.
Yeah.
Luckily, I've got the Lenovo S10-3T, which has multi-touch capacitive touchscreen, and it runs like great. I played around with it under GNOME 3. It runs great under GNOME 3. So I started playing around with it.
And now it does work out of the box.
It works out of the box. I don't have to touch anything. Now, the little dock on the
You can scroll
on
the
side,
icons. That's cool.
the first thing you do, of course, is you touch it and you start swiping it to see how it goes. And it's butter smooth and it gets you all excited because it's like, this is going to work great. I'm so excited now. So then you go ahead and launch an application. You launch Home folder, which is just Nautilus full screen.
Yeah.
By default.
Oh
which
my
is,
gosh! We'll get to the global menu.
In a minute.
All right.
Now here's the problem. I don't know if you guys can see all this. This is what happens. You end up with a full screen Nautilus. Your dock is now gone.
Yeah.
Now, how do you bring the dock back? Well, I'll move the mouse. You move it to the left side of the screen. The dock appears. Now watch me do it touch screen. I did it.
You got it, man.
That literally is the fastest I've ever done it, and it only took me 3 tries.
Did you just slam your finger up against the side of the screen
I
a
just
few
kind
times?
of rubbed my finger pad around it, and half the time you end up accidentally clicking it, which means
the first time I tried it, I almost drug an icon out of his.
The UI works amazingly well if you only ever run one application, not just one application at a time, focused, but one application. Now here's the other problem. Notice the very top of the screen is where all the buttons are. Let me close it.
Yeah.
No, I just accidentally clicked something else.
Even for the mouse button, it's too.
I can't
too
get
small.
to it.
Yeah.
And you can't. Also, the Ubuntu button, it's too small for your finger, your fingertip, the pad of your finger, your pinky. It's too small. Oh, you did it.
Yeah, after like in order to do it, you have to do the thing where you brace the screen with your other hand with your other. Yeah, I mean that's just not going to work.
It just is not going to work. Now you can install some kind of optional like gestures that will make this a little bit more usable. They don't really work all that well right now. They're not in that great a shape, but they are making progress.
That's good.
That leaves some hope for the future. However, this UI, I mean, it's too. You can't click the power button. I just did it. Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Can you tell that dock on the side to be always on top?
There are some like I don't know about always on top, but like one of the frequent questions I saw is, can you set the Unity dock to always hide? And there are some different ways. You can't do it like with the default stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't able to figure it out.
If you load Comp's settings manager,
you can do it
and
there.
then there is a Unity plugin in there. You can dig around in there and find it. I mean, it's super buried. It's weird. So they might have the always on top in there too.
So everything is like super always buried. That said, it is easier to find the obvious applications if you've never used Linux before. I mean,
I disagree. I don't think
because the obvious applications that people are going to want to use are the ones in the dock. That's the thing.
But once you go beyond that dock, it's hard to find.
Oh, once you go beyond the dock, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You're off in no man's land in the desert, and you're never going to find water.
No, you can't. And then the first time one of these things goes full screen, not only are the close buttons on the wrong side. And see, here's the thing: is I realize we're trying to make a distro, we're trying to make a desktop easier for average users. But the fact of the matter is Windows and that nomenclature of how maximize and minimize works and where closes and all that stuff has been around for about 20 years now. I mean, that's just how people know how to operate.
Yeah, but you know
You're
what?
not going to run into people that haven't seen that before,
But that changed in 10.10 already. I mean, that was the buttons were already on the different sides. What
I know, but now you have the full screen.
Yeah.
Now you have full screen global menus with that, and together it's extremely confusing.
So again, here's Nautilus. I know you guys probably can't see it. Check out some screenshots if you haven't seen it. But the menu bar and the title bar for the close buttons are now in the global status menu area, which means they're right up top in the thing, and they don't look like they're part of the window anymore.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit off-putting for having a close button in your global thing. It kind of looks like you're trying to close your entire system, which I kind of want to right now.
It's weird.
The other thing is the menus are invisible until you mouse over them.
That's the worst part, because you don't even know they're there.
You don't even know they're there. I mean, I knew it because I read all the news.
Yeah, you guys agree? Yeah, go ahead. I thought it was a bug at first too.
Where's the menu? Yeah,
exactly. So where's
confusing.
the menu? Yeah, I had to hold down the Alt button. I was like, well, I know on Windows that if I hold down the Alt button and hit the down arrow, a menu will come down.
Yeah, it's a little infuriating.
The stylus? Yeah. I don't have a stylus. I haven't tried it yet, but
if you have a pointing device, it gets a little bit better, but it's still funky.
So. I would say I have a touchpad that does like the multi-gesture touch stuff, and it is a little better. Some of the stuff's a little better with that.
So
I do too.
I know how to touch it. I have track.
Yeah. Question over there.
So it sounds like you're suggesting Ubuntu needs a Bob version.
Ubuntu needs a Bob version.
A
Is that what we're
Microsoft
saying?
Bob version of Ubuntu.
Isn't that kind of what this is a little bit?
It kind of is, man. I mean, this is the simplified, dumbed down version. Just one other thing I want to touch on the menus, because it just infuriates me to no heck. Now that menus are not standardly inside the windows, they're in your little system thing, but only when they're properly developed GTK applications. All your Qt applications, all your WX widgets applications, all still have their menus in the window. It means that 90% of the time you're used to going all the way up, except for sometimes you don't go all the way up, and when you don't go all the way up, it looks weird. Like the system behaves strangely. It looks wrong. And that is lame.
I guess I would say I've kind of gotten a little more used to it. But it's funny because I've used Macs plenty, and Macs have always had that global menu system where there's just one menu bar along the top forever.
But that's not Linux.
But it's, for whatever reason, that experience is not translating to my Linux usage. I don't know if it's just my thick-headedness or if it's something. If the implementation is just different enough.
On a Mac, though, if applications aren't full screen, your menu is just stupidly way the heck up there.
Obnoxiously Mac when applications are almost never full screen. And
Right.
that's a big difference.
Right, and I don't really like the default full screeniness where all of my buttons, all of my menus are shoved into the top left right next to that annoying to click Ubuntu menu that when you click it just brings up this giant gray mob of you really want to launch something but you don't know what, and I'm not going to show you any of it.
Now, some of the things that people were telling me beforehand was that a lot of you have tried the new Ubuntu release, but you switched to the Gnome Classic. Has anybody else tried that? Or is anybody in here running the new Unity? It's just an option, I think. I don't even know if you have to
I'll actually show you in a second. Here's another fun thing. You launch this little menu. I don't want this anymore. Click somewhere off of it.
Yeah.
You can't. You can't get away.
Leave me alone. Yeah,
So
the
that's a
Gnome
little
Classic,
annoying.
it seems to be. I think, like Brian was saying earlier at the top of the review, it does seem like that is a more traditional Linux desktop with just newer packages.
It's traditional-ish. So the Gnome Classic is like a standard Gnome desktop, kinda. The panel is still this new panel. Here, let me go ahead and log in. And as you are starting to log in, down here in the bottom, you've got a little Ubuntu drop down, and then you've got Ubuntu Classic, Ubuntu Classic no effects, etc.
Yeah. You let
Yeah,
right
you
there
have
at the
to
login
start the login process, and then it'll allow you to select it. Once you log in, the experience is more comfortable for a guy like me.
More
it is
familiar.
more old school
turf.
Gnome-esque.
Yeah.
it's better, and
It's your
right now
home.
it's
It's where you
not
know how to
logging
be.
in fully. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I also tried Gnome 3, on an Ubuntu 11.10 or 11.04 system, and Gnome 3, I thought, I don't know, for me it seems to be that whatever they're doing there in the Gnome camp works a little better for me than Unity does personally.
Yes.
But I am a little worried now where to go. I think I've probably got some time before I have to really face with the facts that Gnome 2 is going to go away eventually.
Well, yeah.
I'm sure I have time.
Gnome 2 is end of life.
So do I have
dead.
enough time for Unity to get better? I don't know.
Well, enough time for what?
I mean, what Canonical has done here is impressive. For new users to roll this out is impressive. But the problem is here I got twofold problems.
Okay.
Problem number one is it's just not quite there enough for, I think, pro users.
No.
I think for power users, I don't think it's there yet. And problem number two is this is the last release we're going to have, I believe, that's going to be on X11. And I don't know if that means the next version is going to be better or if it's going to be another sort of 1.0 release.
So those are your problems with it. My problems are a little bit more looking forward.
All right.
We already know that there's two different versions of Unity. There's normal Unity,
Yep.
Ribbon, and GTK, and there's Unity based on Qt.
Unity 2D.
So basically the idea is theoretically starting in Ubuntu 11.10, if you have a system that's not capable of 3D acceleration, you will default back to a version of Unity, a Unity-like experience that will be written in Qt that will work a little bit better on 2D-based systems, which means we will now have two completely different software stacks that is Unity. That means that they're really, quite literally, without any ambiguity, duplicating effort to a ridiculous degree by literally rewriting the exact same experience in two completely different application frameworks, which means we're going to see half the speed in development, roughly. I mean, not quite, but you know what I mean? We're not going to see
Or at least
the
a catch-up phase or something like that.
We're not going to see the full speed of development that we need to see improvements in Unity. Plus, we're going to have completely different experiences. So if I log into this machine and I, for some reason, don't have 3D hardware acceleration or I'm in VMware or something, my experience, and if I encounter bugs, they may be totally different than your bugs, and it becomes a support nightmare for institutions trying to roll things out. Because it's basically like supporting two completely different operating systems at that point, or at least in part.
Part of it, yeah, or at least, the UI.
The desktop experience is a totally different beast at that point, and that kind of sucks. The flip side of that is there's no way Canonical will stick to having two completely different applications do the exact same thing.
You wouldn't think so.
That's not a good use of their time, which means they're going to ditch one of them long term, right? I mean, I would probably ditch one of them right now. So long term they're probably going to ditch one of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't really even matter which one. It means that it's going to be that one is also going to be an end-of-life desktop experience.
I think it's probably pretty obvious to be the Unity 2D one, right? Don't you think?
I don't know.
Maybe
I have absolutely no idea.
Or maybe the Ubuntu team starts taking that on, and instead of rolling a KDE version of Ubuntu one day, they always are running the Unity 2D version of Ubuntu.
So then there's how Unity compares to GNOME 3, which, I mean, because, people kind of view them as a clone. I mean, do you guys kind of consider GNOME 3 and Unity to be like the same sort of deal, like just written by two different groups? Or am I the only one who feels that way?
Yeah,
What do you guys
I
think?
see some head nodding.
A little bit of head nodding. I mean, because it kind of seems like they're trying to tackle the same thing. Both of them have a little dock on the side. Both of them go for the full screen experience. When you hit the little button in the left-hand side, the same thing comes up with a search bar across the top and some icons below it that don't show you all of your applications. It's the
And
same
they
on both.
super love dark transparency.
Yeah, and there's dark, gray, and black on both. They really look pretty similar.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to figure out is which one do I actually like using between the two of them?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if GNOME 2 is end-of-lifed by GNOME 3 and Canonical is putting their weight behind Unity, which one do you actually go with?
That's where I'm at. And so I think right now I hang out on GNOME 2. I really do. I think I go Mint 11 and I go GNOME 2 and then I go back for 12.04.
So you ditch Ubuntu because of Unity?
Well, I mean, once you take out the software store, what is Ubuntu offering over another desktop? If it's not their implementation of the desktop that I look for anymore, what is it that Ubuntu is offering? Is it Ubuntu 1? Is it the Ubuntu Software Center?
I don't know. I want to know. Does anyone have
think?
any thoughts on that? What is it?
Besides the desktop, what's another reason you guys run Ubuntu besides the UI and the package selection and stuff? Anybody? You get a free sticker, whoever answers.
So far, my main reason for continuing with it is it just works.
It just works? All right, you get a sticker.
Everything I have.
Okay, so
One sticker for you.
Would you keep running Ubuntu even
I'm
with
gonna
the
hand
new
out
UI
stickers.
then? He's rolling his eyes and him and Han.
Yeah, I'm running the LTS version. I kind of hesitate to do
So you haven't tried Unity yet.
So you're biding your time.
All right, I'm ripping your sticker up. No, I'm kidding.
I've been reading the forums, and there's a lot of unhappy people, but then those are the only ones that post anyway.
Is anybody else skipping this release?
I'm an old Unix geek.
You're an old Unix geek. All right.
FBWM version 1 is still in the repository.
Yeah, you could go FBWM. That's
All right,
for sure.
you're pretty hardcore. Yeah. So, show of hands, Ubuntu users. Hands up. Okay, good. Okay, so hands back down.
Almost everyone. Did anybody not a Ubuntu user? I didn't. Okay, one. All right, so it looks like we got about 5, 6.
All right. So, how many of you have installed 11.04 at this point?
About
All right,
half
so
of the Ubuntu users.
not quite half. All right, so how many of you are looking to move to something else because of 11.04 in Unity?
Wow. Okay. You're giving it a shot, and I will say,
That's pretty good.
So
It really becomes a problem,
yeah,
in trying to access things like
and find things. Yeah, it is a problem.
and I might switch somewhere else.
Okay.
I found over the week that I've used it hard straight, because I've been on and off for a while since the alphas, but I just said, no, Chris, you only can use this, and I found after that it was better. It just seems like a lot of effort.
It's a lot of effort, and I just don't know that it's worth it at this point. Like I'm obviously I love Ubuntu. I've been using Ubuntu as one of my primary desktops for years.
Sure.
I've got
Sticker for
my
you, too.
application in the stinking Ubuntu Software Center. You know what I mean? Like
I know you do.
I
I
am
know it.
living off of Ubuntu.
I know it.
So I'm looking at it as, of course, I'm going to have a machine running Ubuntu, obviously, but I don't really particularly enjoy using this release. I loved Ubuntu 10.10. For those of you, I've been called an Ubuntu fanboy for like the last 3 years. People have made fun of me giving bad coverage of Fedora and whatnot and giving good coverage of Ubuntu pretty consistently. In fact, I think my review for Ubuntu 10.10 was that I called it perfect.
The best desktop ever.
And I don't know that I want to use 11.04. I think that, yes, they could get better. They could improve substantially. Obviously, this is a version 1, whole new UI.
Yeah, it's rough to have a version 1 when you also it's rough to have your desktop experience be a version 1 when the version number on your product is 11.
That sucks.
It does suck, yeah.
So
This same problem exists in other distributions.
Yes, right now it exists in a lot of places.
The question is, does that same problem exist for the other distributions? I would say, any of them that are switching to GNOME 3 are going to have a similar problem.
Yeah. I mean, GNOME 3 really isn't that much different than Unity.
But the difference here is that, Canonical and Ubuntu are out on their own island with this. There's going to be a lot of distros using GNOME 3. There's going to be one distro using Unity.
Yeah.
So it's a risky move, and they're sort of sticking their neck out.
That said, I mean, Ubuntu has the market share. Ubuntu is the largest distribution in terms of sheer numbers overall. I mean, you can combine together, two of some of the top 5 as their distribution. They still don't equal Ubuntu's numbers. So I think they're banking on the sheer mass velocity that they've got to get them over this hump to keep people on board until Unity is a little bit more
future velocity. Maybe they for some reason have a reason to believe that they're going to have a massive influx of new users that they're going to need to be ready for. I don't know.
I don't know. See, personally, I don't like it. Honestly, I'm actually considering moving over to something like OpenSUSE or something else.
Yeah, I've been monitoring the chat room as we go, and I'm seeing a lot of people mention Arch, OpenSUSE, and Mint. Those are the main
great distributions.
Fedora 15 by AJ in the chat room.
And Mint's not a bad way to go. If you're currently an Ubuntu user and you don't like Unity, because I believe, because Mint's got a bunch of different variations, but Mint is essentially Ubuntu +++. And so if you go with Mint, you get to use a lot of your existing repositories. You get to keep a lot of that stuff in place. You don't really lose any of the stuff you've already learned. That's kind
of what I figured.
And you can go with a different desktop environment, such as LXDE or stick with Gnome 2.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I figured. Is you get the benefit of the repos, but you don't have to deal with the UI.
Yeah. No, it's kind of sad in a way. We had a lot of high hopes for Unity on multiple devices, because they talked a lot about netbooks and touchscreens. This was originally a netbook UI, and I think as a netbook UI it is better, but as a touchscreen UI it's terrible at this point.
Can we just say though? I mean, maybe you don't agree with this, but if in 2 years Canonical pulls this off, and this is a really complete, feature-rich graphical desktop.
Okay.
How awesome is it that they actually did this? How awesome is it they nutted up?
We already have that, though.
Well, we don't, though.
What are you talking about?
We don't, though.
You need to pull your head out of your butt. We have an awesome desktop.
GNOME 3?
GNOME 2. It looks good. Look at Ubuntu 10.10. It looks great.
But what are they going to do?
Did you like Ubuntu 10.10's UI?
Of course, everybody likes GNOME 2. But what are they going to do?
We get it.
It's not Canonical's fault that the GNOME 2 camp is stopping. I mean, their options are go GNOME 3 or go their own route.
Or pick up GNOME 2 and keep it going. They're already reinventing an entire desktop environment. Why not?
I don't know. I don't know what that would. Yeah, maybe.
Why not?
Like fork it, make it the Ubuntu fork.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Call it a.
Huh?
Bring back GNOME 1.
GNOME 1. Yeah. There you go.
GNOME 1. That's just mean.
Yeah.
No. I love GNOME 2 as much as the next guy.
If they could go that route, that would be my preferred route, to be honest with you.
It would be great, wouldn't it?
But if I live in a world where all of a sudden GNOME's gone, let's just pretend like it's gone, then what are they going to do? They're going to go this route. And if it's awesome, then in 2 years, we could be looking at Linux having its own innovative, completely unique brand new.
We've got that. I mean, look at KDE4. Hands up. Do you guys like KDE4?
Yeah.
Do you think it's cool? I mean, not necessarily usable, but cool.
It's yeah.
So I work with a nonprofit called Free Geek Vancouver. We send out thousands of computers every month to people that have never owned.
You work for which profit?
Free Geek.
Free Geek, and they send out They send out computers. Okay.
Nice.
Don't have computers.
That's awesome.
Nonprofits or whatever, and all of our training is currently for 10.10,
GNOME 2, yeah.
But if they can pull off a better desktop experience that's easier to use,
Right. For new users, yeah.
they will capture so much market share.
So as somebody who ships out a lot of computers to new Linux users, do you find that there's a lot of UI things they get hung up on? I mean, I know as...
Yes, and the training that we have to do for all of the users is quite extensive.
Right.
And we offer something called Open Help Night, where they
Open Help
come in
Night.
with their computers, and we give free tech.
No, this is actually pretty interesting.
Sticker for him.
A major load on us.
So what are you excited about Unity?
It's bleeding. It's bleeding edge, right? It's bleeding.
Yeah, Unity is very bleeding edge. So from your point of view, from your organization, do you feel that Unity in this first 1.0 experience hits it, or is just not hitting it at all? Is it accomplishing what you need?
10 first came out, it was a complete disaster. Nothing worked. It was, everybody hated it. But after a few years of refinement, it got a lot.
So he's comparing it to Rev 1 of Mac OS 10.
I don't want to wait a few years. if I have to wait a few years for Unity to get good, I'm going to OpenSUSE and I'm using something else. I mean, this is, I don't.
10 came out, I switched to BSD for a while.
Yeah.
Couldn't deal with it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, we could always switch and come back.
Well, we always could.
Bryan, come back.
But there's the thing. As Linux users, I mean, many of us may be loyal to Linux, and many of us may be loyal to particular distributions. But the reality is, I mean, all of you guys can kind of jump between them pretty okay, right? I mean, come on. Once you learn one, you learn like 90% of another one. And sure, learning a couple of package tools for maybe Red Hat's kind of a pain in the butt, but that's Red Hat's fault. And so, but it's relatively easy to jump between them. So why have any sort of brand loyalty at all in the Linux camp between the desktop environments, the distros, anything like that? As long as you can use something that you want to use. And I'm looking at Ubuntu 11.04 and I'm wondering, well, maybe this is just not it. Then again, this isn't a long-term support release, so maybe none of us should be using this one yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe this is time for us to start taking the whole long-term support thing seriously. Because before, I mean. Okay, a few of you run long-term support. How many of you actually use long-term support releases?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
A couple.
8. All right.
The rest of you guys are all on 10.10 or something like that. See, we're Linux users. We're impatient, right? So we've just been ignoring the whole long-term support because, come on, you're not going to be running the same distro in 6 months anyway, right? So maybe it's time we start taking that seriously and use the long-term support releases and just install the every 6 month releases when we want to try something out and comment on how busted it is.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe Canonical's targeting somebody or a group of people that are not us.
That's what we think.
That's
He's
the
suggesting maybe Canonical's targeting people that aren't us, and that's just kind of what we think, because it's just not targeted to our type of usage.
No, it's not for power users.
Don't the long-term supports come out after, say, for example, now we've got 11.04, right?
Yeah, so 11.10 should be a long-term support.
11.10.
I believe so, yeah.
I'm on
Yeah, 10.04 was.
10.04 LTS.
Yeah, it's every 3 releases.
In a year,
Oh, okay. Is it a year?
11.04 LTS.
It's 11.04. Okay.
But that will have taken all the stuff that we're having problems with now
Yeah.
and put it into that.
Well, but it should be. But if it's a year away, it should be a year better.
Well, here's the problem we've got though is
That's why if you don't want to screw around
You just hang out at the LTS lease. Yeah.
with the LTS
Yeah.
people that do make all those refinements and then upgrade
Sure.
to the LTS version of Unity and all
Right.
So 6 months from now, we will be having the V1 version of Unity for Qt. So we're still going to be at V1. And potentially 6 months from that, we're going to be having the V1 version of a desktop shipping with Wayland instead of Xorg.
Yeah.
It means we're going to be either changing our very core desktop or the stinking entire server that runs our desktop every 6 months for the next year under Ubuntu. So we've got some major V1s ahead of us. So I don't see any way where Ubuntu is anything other than bleeding edge for at least another year and a half, which means we're going to be looking at 12.10.
I agree.
Ubuntu 12.10 as our next no new V1 crap
That's
stuff in it. And
It's
I
true.
love V1. I love bleeding edge
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But I think that's the next time we've got that opportunity.
I think it is Mint time or OpenSUSE time. I really do. Because you're right. It's going to be a year of heck.
it's going to be a year of heck.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though I love what they're doing, I like that they're taking risks, I like that they're doing something new, I like that they made a desktop that doesn't look like Windows or OS 10 other than the menu bar up top, which I don't understand that at all. But I like that they're doing that, but I need a desktop I can live on and develop on day in, day out. I'll have to keep an Ubuntu machine running because I make software for it, but otherwise, maybe it's time to spend a little bit more time on SUSE or Mint is just really the likely thing for me because I'm certainly as hell not using Fedora.
Hardware is pretty cheap.
Yeah, hardware is cheap.
You can have your bleeding edge hardware box sitting over there where you try
Yeah.
A dedicate, yeah.
out your LTS one and you do all your productive stuff.
And I'll often go there. So he's suggesting you could always, have two boxes. Have one box as your bleeding edge and one box that's your production. I'll do that often.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not a bad way to go. I don't know. For those of you running 11.04 right now, is there anyone running 11.04 that loves it? That thinks it's just yeah.
Yeah?
What do you think? I mean, what
You like
is it?
Unity
You
a
like
lot?
it? You like it over the previous release?
Argument for Unity, like at first, you click the little
Right.
How do I find out what I'm finding? But I realize like 80% of the time that I, want to open something, I know what I want to open. So I just press the window key or meta key.
And you don't find the search. So his argument is that because he pretty much always knows what he wants to run, which most of us do, it's either going to be Chrome or Firefox or Evolution or all the time, and so you just type it and run. I don't disagree with you, and then you can add those ones to your dock. The only problem is I have that it just seems to be like just a hair second too much of a delay that it's just I notice it every time, so it bugs me.
He gets cranky though.
So
he's impatient.
I am very OCD about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's very OCD.
Well, the dock works. The launch, you just to run on terminal, hit the up arrow a few times, and I'm good. But and then the dock works too. It's all just change that takes getting used to.
Yeah.
Meta W is also really nice. And meta D.
Yeah. The keyboard shortcuts are probably my favorite part about Unity. Seriously, now that I've actually that took me the longest to start wrapping my brain around. But once I've started going through them, because you can hotkey like any of the buttons in the Unity dock, and all of those kinds of things are immediately hotkeys.
I wish they had, like when you first launched 11.04, a little thing that said, "Here's the stupid keys you can press," because I didn't know what the hell I was doing for a good day or two.
There you go. Well, I think that's our look at Unity, right? Or
I don't know where that leaves us exactly.
I know. I guess time will tell. I mean, this will be one of these things I'm sure we'll update people on as we go.
Yeah.
Things will change.
What do you guys think? Just quick show of hands, because we don't normally have a live audience, and I find this interesting. How many of you guys think that this will actually hurt Ubuntu's market share in the Linux desktop world?
Raise your hand.
How many of you guys think it'll help?
Wow.
And the rest of you don't know.
Yeah. Huh.
People are naturally resistant to change.
Right.
Regardless of how good that change is.
Natural resistance to change is human nature, yeah.
Initially, there's going to be a dip, and then once they get some of the bugs worked out or some of the inconveniences or inefficiencies, it might pick up.
So yeah, you make a good point. People are resistant to change, but think about this. Remember when Windows Vista came out and how much fun we made of Windows Vista? I mean, it was pretty constant. And one of the big things we talked about was Windows Vista sucks so bad. This is a great opportunity for Linux and for Mac to really siphon off a lot of those users, right? Just pull them all over. Well, the problem with Windows Vista was they rushed a product out, the UI felt a little bit different, and it was buggy as all heck. What we've got right now is a UI that's really different and kind of buggy. So it kind of seems like almost the same sort of deal as what Microsoft did with Vista, right? I mean, it has some great stuff to it. There's no doubt about that. But is it polished? Is it so unpolished that we're actually going to have people looking around and saying, let's go somewhere else? Or at least making way too much fun of us, which I don't
I'm going to
like.
try to stick with it for another week. I'm going to try and see if it gets better.
Yeah?
I'm going to try.
I'm going back to Gnome too.
No promises, but I'm going to try. It's been rough. It's been rough, but I'll try. You'd rather use DOS.
You'd rather use DOS? You are hardcore, sir. In kind of a weird way.
Yeah.
People are able to get this installed and have it run with little or no issues.
Yeah.
They're going to use it.
Yeah.
But if it becomes such that they're constantly tweaking something to get
That'll be
to work, I tried
He-
this once,
Yeah.
several times.
Yeah.
It never did run right.
So his argument is basically if people don't have to fight with it,
Then
if
it's
they don't
gonna
have to fight with it,
go
they'll
well.
work with it. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll
Time
see.
will tell.
I am completely uncertain, just as I am completely uncertain about Gnome 3.
Story will continue to develop on the Linux Action Show, Brian.
It sure will.
Yeah.
All right. So, so this was a very special episode. Tomorrow we will still be doing a full Linux Action Show. Joining us will be the guy who is I believe he's the chairman of the OpenSUSE Foundation.
Okay.
He works at Novell or Attachmate or
Probably.
whatever they're called. I don't know what they're called anymore.
Or at least he'll pretend like he does.
So I have no idea. When does this come out?
I don't know.
I don't know. Whenever you're
Probably
watching
Monday.
it came out.
Probably Monday.
Yeah, something like that. So, but we'll be live here again from Bellingham Technical College at LinuxFest Northwest again tomorrow.